Hey everybody, it's Ivory from Brucko. In today's video, I want to share with you guys 16 reasons why the Los Angeles Lakers currently suck and 3 things they can do to possibly make the play-in tournament and maybe win a first round playoff matchup against the Warriors, the Suns, or maybe even Memphis. For full disclosure, I am a new Laker fan, longtime LeBron James fan. But I want to be non-biased and I want to tell you guys basically from the eye test, what do I see here, the reasons why the Lakers suck so bad. Also, these 16 reasons, none of them are in order. So I'm just going to lay them out as I lay them out. And lastly, there is no one size fits all. There is no one thing that the reason why the Lakers suck. There's a multitude of things. There's a cascade effect. There's a multiple ripple effect, if you will. And anybody that tells you otherwise, they're just not being honest with you. There's a multitude of reasons why the Lakers aren't that good right now. You may hear it on YouTube, you may hear it on the media, ESPN, and they tell you, man, this is the reason why the Lakers are bad, or this is the reason why the Lakers suck, or it's LeBron, it was Westbrook, it's this person. No, there's a combination of reasons why the Lakers are god-awful bad right now. And let's go through the list right now. Reason number one is bad offseason blunders. What do I mean by that? Yeah, it's easy to say the Russell Westbrook trade. Of course, that's definitely. However, what the Lakers lost was they lost their depth. They lost their dogs, their gritty guys. I think of Alex Caruso, KCP, those type dudes they lost by trading for Russell Westbrook. They lost their dogs, their guys that would do the dirty work for them, that would guard the best offensive player, that would dive for loose balls, that would get gritty and put their bodies on the line in order to help the team win. And that's something that you can't measure in terms of wins or losses, but you can measure in terms of energy, in terms of effort, in terms of motivation, and in terms of like just getting the team over the hump in any particular game or slump. You need those type of impact players, those type of guys that don't mind doing the dirty work. And the Lakers, they drastically they're a different team without their dirty guys. They're dirty, hardworking, dog type brothers, and they just simply don't have those guys. And I mean, they do have, AR-15, Austin Reeves, and they also have Stanley Johnson. But the Lakers had a core nucleus group with those guys like KCP and also Caruso. So you lose that, and that kind of affects your team in a ways. And again, this is a ripple effect. This is a ripple effect, a multitude of things happening, and this is one of them. Reason number two is Russell Westbrook. Yes, I know everybody talks about Westbrook. He can't shoot. He's inefficient. He turns over the ball. He's a turnover machine. Yes, all those things are true. And what happens is when you compound those things on top of the media and on top of all the other things that the Lakers are dealing with, yes, that is a problem for the Lakers. Russell Westbrook has not been a good fit for the Lakers. And if they both kind of acknowledge those things right now, they're not a good fit for each other. And Westbrook is not, he just haven't simply been good this year, and he haven't lived up to the expectations that the Lakers need. Three, the Lakers are an older team. When you have an older team, what tends to happen? You tend not to have the stamina to play with some of the younger guys. And we know that sports, and particularly the NBA, is a young man's game. And the Lakers have a lot of older, veteran type players on their team. They just simply can't keep up with some of the younger guys. Four is lack of defense. When you look at the Lakers play really closely, you notice that they don't make proper rotations. Their rotations are either off, late, or just simply they just don't make the rotations. They can't sustain a high intensity defensive game throughout the course of the game. And if you notice, you see a lot of the opposing team, they get easy buckets, easy layups, and transition. They can pretty much, they know how to get what they want from the Lakers. And the Lakers have really atrocious defense. Four, injuries. Anthony Davis been injured. LeBron missed some time. Like a lot of players on this team has missed time. Avery Bradley, those are some of the people who come to mind. I'm sure there's been a lot more injuries to this team, and you just see injuries has like ravaged this team, and they've had like the most lineups out of like what 30, 40 different lineups, and injuries played a major role in the Lakers being trash right now. Five is lack of wing players. Now, you look at the Lakers now, they have a lot. They have some point guards. They have some other guys, but they lack in those wing players, like those Danny Green type players that they had on the championship team. They don't really have good wing players who can defend on the wing. Also, they get kind of like 3-and-D type guys. Lakers lack that. 6, COVID protocols. This ravaged the whole entire NBA. So it's not just the Los Angeles Lakers, but the Lakers did suffer a lot because they lost Frank Vogel earlier on due to COVID protocols, and just a couple other team members that they lost in the protocol or just had to sit out of games, and that messed up the rotation, the chemistry earlier on in the game, and they lost a lot of those close games. Had those COVID protocols haven't been around in place, maybe they would have won some of those games. So I have to tip it and say COVID protocols also is one of the reasons why the Lakers suck right now, or has been the reason why they suck. Number 7 is lack of effort. Now, when I talk about lack of effort, I'm talking about with the eye test. When you watch the Los Angeles Lakers play, you notice they don't really commit to playing maximum effort. They don't really put in that effort to actually defend and do the dirty work and play the game with respect the way they should play the game with respect. They just lack effort. They don't dive on the ball for loose balls, those 50-50 balls, or have a sense of urgency when they are playing most nights. And you see it. You see the lack of effort, and you see how that affects. And again, I talk about that ripple effect. This is a ripple effect. This is a compounding effect on this team, and you start to see some of those fruits come to fruition. Number 8 is bad habits. Lord have mercy. When you watch the Lakers play, you notice that they have some bad habits, yo. They just do not do things that championship teams should do. They foul when they shouldn't foul. They don't really have the effort part into it, and they just don't rotate as well as they should. They just have really bad collective team habits, and that affects the team in so many ways. Number 10, front office power struggle. When you talk about Jeannie Buss, Kurt and Linda Rambis, Rob Pelinka, Clutch, LeBron, you have all these cooks in the kitchen. So you have a lot of people saying that this is the pathway the Lakers should go. This is the pathway they should go. And you have all these people at the top fighting and jockeying for position on the direction of where the Lakers should go, the style of play, who should be the coach. Then this naturally leads to some turmoil. This naturally leads to an issue that trickles down from the top all the way to the bottom. Number 11 is LeBron's body language. Let me explain this. Now, when you watch LeBron James play, sometimes his body language speaks more than what he says out of his mouth in post or pregame shows or whatever. I notice and pay attention to his body language. You know, the shoulders are shrugged, the head is down. You know, the face is just so stoic sometimes, and he looks like disengaged. He looks like he's there but not there. He's checked out mentally. And guess what? That drips from the top of the head way to the crown of the feet. And that shows in games. And when LeBron is like that, you know the other players are going to follow suit. Number 12, poor shooting. The Lakers are not a good shooting team. They're not a good three-point shooting team. They're not a good mid-range shooting team. And they're definitely not a good free throw shooting team. This affects them in late game scenarios. Also, it affects them down the stretch because when Carmelo Anthony and that second unit comes in, sometimes they have to carry this team up and lift this team up and help this team break out of a deficit because they built such a huge deficit because they missed a lot of shots earlier on in the game. Number 13 is adversity. Now, the Lakers, teams know this. They know this. They have this in part of this in their scouting report. When the Lakers, you just have to just play a little bit harder than they do. And then once you hit them in the face a couple times, maybe you hit a couple three-pointers or you get some and ones, this team will start to fold. And when the Lakers face adversity, they tend to hold their head down. They tend to have like this nasty, ugly, dirty body language where they feel like disgusted. They feel like down on themselves. And teams take advantage of this, and they can't fight through that adversity. And it causes them to make careless mistakes. It causes them to give up the fight, and they don't take the fight to the team anymore, and they lose. Number 14, the Lakers have issues closing out games. Lakers, you wouldn't normally think about this with a veteran team. You would think a veteran team like the Lakers, they should be able to close out games, but they don't. They don't close out games very well. At the end of the game, they have a hard time thinking, how are we going to score? Is it going to be the LeBron show? Is it going to be the Russ show or whoever show? They have a hard time figuring out, like, what's our go-to plan? What's our go-to strategy to close games out? And they've lost a lot of games that they should have won because they couldn't close out games. Number 15, unforced errors, turnovers, and just being reckless with the ball. Now, it's easy to lump this in and say Russell Westbrook. I mean, he's averaging about 4 turnovers a game. But also, you look at LeBron from time to time. LeBron has some high turnover games as well. And you just see the carelessness with the ball with the primary ball handlers sometimes. LeBron or Russell Westbrook and others, they're just really lackadaisical, very, very careless with the ball, and they turn the ball over. And teams know this, and they put this in the scouting report that the Lakers are careless with the ball. And guess what? You can get some turnovers, you can get some steals, you can get some transition buckets, and we all know those are the biggest killers when you have a turnover, and a live ball turnover that leads to a three-pointer and it leads to an and one. It's just demoralizing to the team. Number 16, and this is a big one. They don't seem like they like playing with each other. I know it's hard to say that as professionals. You would think that they would figure a way out. They would figure out how to bring this thing together. It's been 60-something games now, and they have not figured out how to play with each other. And quite frankly, I don't think they like playing with each other. You can feel, you can read the body language. You can see that guys are out there. They're just playing basketball, man. They're just showing up because it's on the calendar, it's on the schedule, and they're just playing. Now, you do have some guys who play hard no matter what, but as a collective team, you notice that they just don't seem to like playing basketball with each other. And that's the chemistry of the team, and that affects the team. So again, it's not just a one thing or two thing or a few things. There's a combination. There's a multiple ripple effect that's affecting this team, and it goes from the head all the way down to the foot. Now, what can they do in order to possibly make the play-in tournament? One, they can just let go of expectations. Just let them go. You're not making the championship. You're playing with house money now. No one has expectations for this team, this current Laker team, to make a playoff run or to even make a championship. So if that's the case, that's cool. That takes the pressure off you guys. You guys can play with house money. You can say, you know what? Man, we're not even supposed to, like, we had aspirations to be a championship team earlier. You got to let that go. Now you are a play-in team, possibly a play-in team, and you have to play with house money, and that should be able to motivate these guys to have some sense of pride to say, you know what, maybe we aren't that championship team now, but if we play hard leading up into the playoffs, we can catch fire, and if we catch fire, we still have one of the top 2 best players in the world. I mean, one of the top players in the world in LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and then we still have an somewhat athletic Russell Westbrook, and we have a team, and maybe we could possibly make some noise in the playoffs. 2, the Lakers, you're going to need to have maximum effort. Every single game, you have to bring it. No matter win, lose, or draw, you have to show up. You have to show up and play all in. You have to play all in, maximum effort. Die for the loose balls. Play as if you are desperate, because you are a desperate team, but you don't have that expectation of championship, so you can play loose and you can just go out there and play free. But we want you to play with maximum effort. The Lakers, if they're going to make a playoff run, if they're going to get in the playoffs and make a playoff run, they are going to have to play with maximum effort. 3, dirty work. Yes, dirty work. Lakers, you're going to have to get dirty. You have to get your hands dirty if they're going to win or even get in the playoffs or make some noise in the first round against Golden State, Phoenix, or Memphis. You're going to have to do the dirty work. I'm talking about diving for loose balls. I'm talking about making the extra pass, making rotations. I'm talking about getting back in transition. All those things. You have to do those things if you're going to be able to win. And those are my key takeaways. If the Lakers can do these three things, I think they have a really good chance of not only making the playoffs. I think personally, if they play the Golden State Warriors, they could possibly beat the Golden State Warriors. And I'll talk about that maybe possibly in another video. But I do believe, as a new Laker fan, as a LeBron James fan, that the Lakers can still turn this thing around. I mean, we have 3 to 4 weeks left. AD's going to be coming back soon. If the Lakers can ride this storm, maybe get some wind under their belt, maybe they could put together a string of wins, bring some consistency, and start making some progress in these 16 areas that I mentioned. Maybe, just maybe, they have a chance to get into the play-in tournament, win, and also not only get in the play-in tournament, get in the regular playoffs and possibly beat or upset a first-round playing team. So that's my 2 cents on the Lakers right now. I hope you guys like this video. If you do, consider subscribing, and sharing this content. And I'll talk to you guys in the next video.